This month's challenging project, a tall stem goblet, was suggested by Sam Angelo. I've never turned a long stem goblet, so it was a challenging project. I've turned several smaller ones. So in preparation for this one, I did turn another smaller one before I got to the big one, which presented some challenges. I hope you'll learn something from watching my video, from some of the tips and tricks that I pass on. And I hope you'll watch the videos from my collaboration partners, Richard Raffin from Australia, Sam Angelo from Billings, Montana, and Tomislav Tomasic from Croatia. Links, as usual, will be in the video description area. I hope this inspires you to turn one, but before you turn a tall one, I suggest you start with a smaller one. Let's start off with what kind of wood we're going to use. In this particular case, I'm using a piece of very straight grained mahogany, 2 1/4 inches square by 16 inches long, or 57 millimeter by 406 millimeter, and it's got a very straight grain pattern, very little variation. This is what you need. You want to avoid some of the following. You want to avoid anything with tremendous figure. Might look nice and a lot of work. Let me see if I can spray on that. If you can see that ripple. This causes a problem when you start getting very small, because the grain starts changing a pattern, easier to pick and get a catch. You also want to avoid anything that's got signs of critter tracks. Ambrosia maple that's got these beautiful stains from the ambrosia beetle can make a wonderful looking goblet. The problem is you can always have these critter holes and you don't know where they're going to show up. And you got the same issue, for example, in this piece of red oak. You don't know where those critter tracks are going to wind up, and it's possible, as in this goblet, which fortunately I was able to manage. It had this little critter track cross here, and it could have been more tracks, and it could have been deeper, and it could have caused the stem to fail. That looks good. Okay, so we're going to mount this between centers and turn it round, and we're going to put a chuck tenon on it. I think you can see on this that the grain runs very evenly straight across here, but the challenge would be if the grain was coming across at an angle. Once we start dealing with that stem, it would just be so easy for it to snap off, so we want to avoid wood like that. Okay, first thing we're going to do is turn this between centers. It's a spindle project. It's fairly well balanced, so I can get speed up. I'm around 1700. Anchor the tool, ride the bevel, which means it should not be cutting. You lift the handle till it cuts. Flaps on all 4 sides. We've got a little bit more to go. First thing I want to do is put a tenon on this end, and I need to do that before it gets completely round, so I'll have a little bit of a shoulder for the particular chuck I'm using. This is the chuck I'm going to be using. It's got somewhat deep jaw, so I want a tenon that'll go most of the way down there. And it's nice and parallel, so that looks good. I'm not going to worry about getting this end down here round yet. I could do that when it's in the chuck, but meanwhile, while I've got the tool rest covering this, I'll go ahead and get that round. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and stop and put that in the chuck. Because they get a nice wide flat there on the front of the jaws. So we're going to put this in here. Against that shoulder. But before I tighten it up, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the tailstock and use that to help get it absolutely centered and press down into against the jaw face. And now I'm going to tighten this up. Always turn it and make sure it clears. Now, I like to use a spindle roughing gouge. Some folks like to use a little different gouge. All right, I've adjusted the tool rest. Now we're going to get the end that was not rounded. Get it round, no flats. All right, now I'm going to kind of judge where the bottom of my goblet's going to be. I'm going to say it's right there. Mark that. So I had a number of software issues with this video, including losing some sound on some footage, but here I'm making a little divot with my skew for the drill bit. I'm using a 1-inch Morse taper drill bit. This might be overkill, but in this case it does make it a little easier. I measure the depth to be 1 5/8 inches, and I set that on the quill. I set it at 1 inch, and then when I get to 2 5/8, I know I'm where I need to be, so I drill. After drilling, I'm going to use my spindle gouge to kind of face off what will be the top of the goblet. Just clean it up a little bit. Now I bring up the cone center again to give me some stability, and I'm going to take adjust the tool rest to make sure it clears, and then I'm going to take a skew and I'm going to cut a V-cut at the bottom of the goblet cup, make it a little bit deeper. Then I'm going to use a 3/8 inch spindle gouge just to roughly shape the outside. I don't have to get it perfectly right now, but I want to make sure that when I hollow the inside, I don't make the inside bigger than the outside. I try to take the smoothest cut I can, and it didn't feel too bad. So now I remove the tailstock and check it on the inside, and time to me to switch to a smaller tool rest to hollow, something a little easier to maneuver. And I'm going to start with a 1/2 inch spindle gouge, doing the traditional end grain hollowing. It's similar to a box, but I suspect I'm going to have some challenges with this because of I'm having to cut laterally as opposed to straight in. But I work on it a little bit, take a little bit of cuts. I've got a ways to go, and so I start evaluating, is there a better tool for this? So I'm going to switch to a box scraper that's sharpened on the side as well as the nose, and I'm just going to push in into the end grain, so that reduces some of the chatter, and it seems to do a pretty good job. It's going to take me a little bit of scraping here to get this thing, the wall thickness, down a little bit. So I keep refining it to get the thickness to about right. All right, I'm going to use a negative rake scraper to clean up the inside a little bit. It's just easier for me to control it with it keeping it perfectly flat over the tool rest. Just clean up the walls and get that transition at the bottom. Roll it up a little bit, being less aggressive as I bring it down the wall. Still got a little bit of a hump at the bottom. First, I remove the burr. Reestablish the burr. I've got a tiny little divot at the very bottom I'm having a hard time removing with that round nose scraper. So I'm going to shift to a hunter tool with this cupped carbide and see if I can't clean it up. I don't use this tool a lot, but sometimes it gets me out of trouble in unusual situations. And it has done it again. I've got a little bit of a wall transition I think I want to hit with this, too much to sand out, so let's try that. And I think I want a little bit of a transition here on the end. I want it to flare in. Not sure it's the best tool for that, but I think it'll get the job done. Let's back up the tool rest so I've got full support here. And just okay. I think I've got it. All I've got to do is sand that. I've got to sand this before I move on. Okay, I'm going to start sanding the inside. I'm going to use some 100, 120 grit to kind of clean the walls just a little bit. Slow the speed down. Very little lateral pressure. Now, to get to the very bottom, I'm going to use one of my sanding sticks for boxes and so on. Got a little sanding lubricant on it. It's a little, about a 120 grit. Just get down at the bottom and the sides a little bit. It's getting there. Need to go to some finer grits. Okay, I've got the inside sanded to 320. Now I'm going to use some abrasive paste, mineral oils, beeswax, and some abrasive. Coat it with off, and then just friction it in. It will get rid of any micro scratches. In effect, take that last grit of about 320 and double it to at least 600, 700, 800, somewhere in that vicinity. You do it until you no longer see any color, and no, it doesn't interfere with any finish that I'm aware of. Maybe CA glue, which I rarely use. Okay, I want to measure the inside, make sure the inside's not going to be bigger than the outside, and it's about where I want it to be. Set that aside. I'm going to bring up tailstock support to stabilize this a little bit. I want to thin the walls down a little bit. This is about a 8mm gap, and if I bring it down, I can tell I've got about half of that gap all the way down till it starts getting thick here at the bottom. So if I take just maybe 1mm off the outside, I'll be in good shape. I'm going to use a live center with a nylon soft touch and a little bit of a pad just to keep this a little more stable. I can get this finger in there. Yep, okay. Now I'm going to bring up just enough pressure so if I turn this, it will turn the live center, but I'm not really bringing any pressure. I'm just kind of stabilizing it just a little bit. I'll lock it down, and that'll just keep this from moving as much. And now I'm going to bring it down, shape the very bottom here before we start working on that. Let me get rid of some of this that's in the way. I'll use a spindle gouge for that. Yeah, it's not barely turning that, so let me bring up a little more pressure. There we go. So now we're just going to remove some of this excess here back a little bit at a time. All right, now we're going to just skim. I'm going to get the speed up a little bit. It's only sanding speed now. Let's get it up a little bit faster. And let me see if I can't just take kind of a skim coat here, taking it down maybe no more than a millimeter. More support. Okay, chattering a little too much.
pencil and maybe mark that outside one more time, kind of see where I am. Ooh, I'm getting some bad chatter marks down here, so I'm going to have to watch that. So that's going to be the bottom. Wow, get some terrible chatter marks. Let's see. I don't know if I'm getting whipped with that. I'm going to try to take that out with a skew, see if I have some better luck than with that spindle gouge. Still getting some chatter, so I'm going to turn the speed up to about 1800, sharpen my skew, and let's see how that works. Alright, anchor the tool, ride the bevel, lift the handle till he cuts. Alright, it was doing great until I started hearing it vibrate. So I have cleaned it up. Now I've got to be real careful down at the bottom here. Make a V-cut where it's going to go in. Give myself room to come in there. Anchor the tool, ride the bevel. Slow the feed right down. I'm hearing a little chatter. See how bad it is. Not bad. Okay, I can sand that. I can sand that out. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and sand this, and then we'll bring this detail down a little smaller here. Before I sand this any further, I think I want to go ahead and take it down a little bit more down to that final depth on that detail. So let's get the speed up. Continue the V-cut. I think the detail I want to make there is a bead. I need to round over that corner a little bit. Let me see if I can't get this spindle gouge a little bit sharper, and we'll come back and round that over and then finish sanding. Alright, anchor the tool, ride the bevel, lift the handle till it cuts, slowly. Get rid of that bulge right there. Look at the profile here, it doesn't look too bad. I think it won't sand into submission. Let's go ahead and remove a little bit here. You don't need to watch me sand that, so I'll sand this and then we'll come back to that feature. In case I haven't emphasized it, you really have to sand as you go. Once you finish with an area, you can't go back. I can't go back to the inside. I really can't go back to the outside here once I start down on the stem. So I want to be very careful and examine my work, make sure I've got it to the finish. So I'm sanding this to 320. Then I'm going to wind up using some abrasive paste on it. Normally I put this on without the lathe running, but I'll just to make a nice even coat here. And now we'll just do that. Get rid of any micro scratches. And then do it until I don't see any paraffin or any of this abrasive paste coming off onto my paper towel. Still there. Fold it over. Find a clean area, evaluate. Want to get rid of all the wax on the surface. If it's down in the pores, that's okay. Okay, Now, the design feature, I'm not going to have a bead here. What I'm actually going to have is, I'm going to have this feature right here where it comes down and mimics this slope and slopes into the spindle. So I want to take off a little bit more here, getting trickier. Lower the tool rest, get in here close. Some people might prefer to do this with a bowl gouge because it removes a lot of material. I could probably use a bowl gouge for some and then switch to a spindle gouge, but I'm just going to use a 3/8 inch spindle gouge, maybe a 1/2 inch for some of it. We're just going to work back to the headstock in small amounts at a time, keeping as much mass back here as we can. All right, now I'm going to, I think I'm going to refine that cut in there just a little bit deeper with the spindle gouge, or rather the skew. Get the speed up a little bit, and just skim that, just to crisp up the detail a little bit. Now I'm going to use the spindle gouge, and I'm just going to take it down from here. Keep working my way back. Keep sloping this down. Now I want the stem to be, maybe approximately 3/16 of an inch down near the bottom. Could be a little bit finer at the top. So I need to slope this down just a little bit more. If it starts rumbling, I know I'm doing something wrong. Pressing too hard. Let's see if I can speed it up some. I'm going 1200. Let's slowly bring it up to maybe 1600. See how that affects it. I think that's helped a little bit. Small cuts. Start taking this stem down. I'm using my body to make these cuts. I mean, I'm holding the tool in my hands, but my hands movement is not making these fine details. It's me shifting my rear end. Trying to put all my pressure going right down the middle, as much as possible. I want it just a little smoother here. See if I can do it. Okay, I like that. Put my finger on it. Yep, not too much pressure. Just enough to keep it from whipping back and forth is the key of the Lathe center. Alright, hear noise here. I don't know if it means more pressure or less pressure. Alright, let's I'm getting a little rumbling, so let's turn the speed down maybe from 1600 to 1200. See if that helps. It's mostly doing this bulk removal. I don't do so badly down here. It's this lateral pressure, so I'm going to come in there and I think I want to find a small set of, I want to slowly turn the speed off instead of just turning it off. I want to slow it down. And I want to get a set of calipers so that I can just stick in here and gauge the thickness to keep it uniform. So let me find a little wrench. It's a little on the large end, but I think maybe that's as small as I'll get. So I'm getting some vibration here. You can see from this close-up picture of this chatter. So I need to sand this as I go, about an inch or so at a time, and then move down because I can't come back. So let's go ahead and turn that up a little bit. This is quit turning, so it's not putting enough pressure on it. All right, you can see I'm getting a little, I've got some flexibility here. That little piece of foam I put in there wasn't exactly centered, so I'm going to try a little bit of folded up paper towel, see if I can't get a little better centering on that. That's running truer than it was. So let's clean up this little bit right down here at the bottom. So now it's a matter of just replicating this process, coming all the way down, watching for chatter here as I remove bulk. If I'm getting chatter here, I'm going to have problems here, so I need to figure out how to do it. So I'm going to remove some of the bulk with this resharpened 1/2-inch spindle gouge, and let's see what happens. This is running pretty true. I changed the stuff inside to be a little bulkier. Getting up to 1200. Let's see how it cuts. Getting some chatter, so now I'm going to see if I can't brace my finger a little bit behind here to compensate for it a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. I'm still getting some chatter. Let's switch to a smaller tool, 3/8 inch, and give that a try. Slowly bring the speed back up. I'm getting in the habit of turning the speed up and down because I don't want to torque this and have it snap off. So let's just ease this in. Still getting some rumbling. Let's see how much. Getting some rumbling, but it's not chattering much, so I think I'm fine. So now let's take this back a little bit. I think I'd be better off going into the end grain. Let's turn speed up some. 1400, let's see how that works. Okay, getting there. All right. Take a little more down. Support it a little bit. Choke up. Do a pull cut in that direction. Sanding lubricant on the new fresh 240. Pinch it, keep it moving. Still getting some whip, so let's back it out. Rearrange this. This is a fabric bounce for anti-static for the dryer that I use to clean my glasses with. Alright, put it back in there. So I want to keep it that way with this support. So let's just slowly bring this in. Different center, a cone center that'll fit within in there. Let's put this in differently. Try it. Got a ways to go. Now it's spinning. Okay, so I think I've got some support. Lock this down and back to taking this down. Got two different things going here. I've got that roaring from here, this vibration. This, I just don't want it to whip out of control. That's all I'm trying to do. So let's go back here with a 3/8 inch spindle gouge, take down some more, supporting with my finger. Speed 800, let's get it up a little bit. 1300. 800. I don't know that I want to go much past 1,000. So I'm bracing it very lightly with my finger. Anchor the tool, ride the bevel, slowly lift till it cuts. A little bit at a time. And let's see how we're doing. Okay, looks a little thick here in the middle, but nothing probably a little sanding won't take care of. So slow it down. All right, I'm going to go for it. Make a couple of captive rings. I want to take this down just a little bit right here. So let's do that. Okay, now got to figure out how big they're going to be. I think it's going to be about like that. Okay, I got to get rid of this. Got to round over that. The further we get back here to the tailstock, the more solid it is. I don't get the vibration that I had before. Before I go too far, I really need to sand this up on both sides, so let's do that. So it's basically a negative rake scraper. I want to start it in here. Bring it around. Before I break through, I want to make sure I have this sanded as much as possible. More of a problem with sand later. No, I don't know if this will work better or not. I'll give it a try. There we go. Now we're going to tape this right here so it won't bother. So let's get a little tape after that. Alright, I'm having a challenge mounting this. I tried a little CA glue, so I'm going to try, back this off a little bit. I'm going to try, if I can't use a rubber band to kind of strap these two straps down to hold it. I fold it over, okay. If I can keep from breaking this stem. Come on, baby. Okay, I think that's got it. I'm up to 800. Maybe I think that's as far as I'm going to go. So let's make the next bead. I'm just going to go by memory, the size. I'm not too far off. Okay, so now we're ready. Okay, we're going to start tapering down here and into this. But because of these rings and a little off center, we got to go real slow, turn this thing on and turning the speed up. That whip action. Try to get up to 1,000. Okay. So now blend these together. Okay, that taper's not bad. Got a lot of tool marks, but nothing that 100 grit won't resolve. So let's get after that. Okay, I want to do a transition here. All right, so I want to have one step in this cove. This cove's not deep enough yet. Needs to be a little deeper. Okay, now I want to come down here a bit for a transition. I think that'll do it. All right, now comes the exciting part of parting this off. Okay, time to get after with the saw. Let's just turn this just a little bit. And there we go. Get nervous this close to the end to really screw something simple up because they get in too big a hurry. That's tape off. And here we are with my goblet with a couple of captive rings. Let's see how tall it is. And it is 13.5 inches.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Make it easier for the algorithm to push it out to other wood turners. If you're a visitor, I'd appreciate if you leave a comment below of the one thing that you got out of this video. And be sure to check out the videos from the 3 collaboration partners, Richard Reff and Sam Angelo and Thomas Tomasec. As usual, their links will be in the video description area below. And remember, y'all stay safe. Come on back, you hear?